Rebels, and welcome to episode 6 of the Rebel and Reawaken podcast. I am so glad that you are here. I just got back from a trip to Hawaii, and I am nice and sunburned. Well, suntanned. I don't really burn, but so my eyes are a little bit puffy. I am jet lagged and just trying to get over it, but I came back and interviewed this woman named Racine, and she's a new friend of mine. I'm so excited for you to hear her story and to get to know her. She grew up in Texas just like I did, so she's a Texas native, yay. But so we talk about everything from growing up in a place where drinking was normal. We talk about teenage drinking, and then we talk about drinking in college, and we talk about the effects that can have on our developing brain and how your drinking can go from what is seen as normal drinking, normal teenage behavior, to being very problematic, and you may not even realize that it's happening. So during this conversation, we talk about building a toolbox for when times get tough. And I know this podcast is primarily geared towards people in recovery, but I really think this episode is for anyone who is trying to make changes in their lives, whether it's trying to stay on a diet or trying to get healthy, trying to stop any problematic habits that you may have, or just generally trying to make some good changes in your life. This might be a good podcast for anybody who's going through a breakup and just needs some accountability to not go back to a toxic relationship. So I really hope that you'll stick around and listen to Racine's advice, listen to her story, and gain some hope from it, and gain some tools that you can use when times get hard, when change gets tough. Because she really does give some good tips in here. She talks about building a toolbox and having people that you can be brutally honest with and who you can tell the truth about where you are in life. So without further ado, we shall hop in. All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself growing up. Just start at the beginning.
Awesome. So my name is Racine. I just turned 30 years old. I have grown up in Texas and lived in Texas my whole life. I have a boyfriend named Andrew, who I love very much, and 3 dogs. We don't have any kids, but we have 3 dogs. So, that kind of keeps us busy. I have 3 sisters. I'm in the middle. So I have 2 older sisters and 1 younger sister. Growing up, we were all very close. We did a lot of stuff together. We were very family oriented, and we still are family oriented. My parents are still together, which is kind of rare these days. They very much are still in love, which is amazing to see. So my childhood, I would describe it as very middle class, normal. It was a great childhood. I was very close with my father. We went fishing a lot. He took me hunting. We spent a lot of time together, and just as a family unit as a whole. And our family's relationship with alcohol has always been very open. So when I turned probably 15 or 16, my parents would let me drink at home. They knew I was there, so they knew I was safe with them. And so it was very relaxed, very comfortable. I would have friends over, and they would ask their parents if it was okay if they drank. And so we did a little bit. It wasn't really my thing, but that's what I did with my family. We lived right by the river, so we were outside a lot and drinking beers and stuff like that. So it was very normal. And then I actually graduated a year early. So I had just turned 16, I think it was 16, when I graduated in 2009. And I decided to go to college right after that. So in 2000, the summer of 2009, I turned 17, July. And then I moved to college in August. So, I mean, I was freshly 17 when I went to college. And I would say that's really where my relationship with alcohol kind of took a turn for the worse. I was so young, and I was about an hour away from home, so not too far, but far enough to where my parents weren't monitoring me. They weren't able to see what I was doing with it. And so I made a lot of friends that were either 20 or already 21. And so I got a fake ID real quick. I realized if I'm going to hang out with these people, I need a fake ID and I need to be doing these things. And so that is when my relationship with alcohol turned into a problem. And I wouldn't know this for years. I mean, it took me maybe 5 to 10 years after having that awful relationship of even realizing, whoa, okay, something's wrong here. What's going on? So, and in my life, I wasn't the like typical alcoholic, which is, it's like an oxymoron, or like people say functioning alcoholic, which is such an oxymoron to me now. But I was that way. Like, I thought of myself as a functioning alcoholic. I had never gone to jail. I didn't have any DUIs. I had never hurt myself or anybody in a car accident, never got in trouble. I was going to college and had a full-time job. I graduated college in 4 years and then got a job right after that. And so I think that's what really held me back for so long, is being like, well, look at this. I've done this, and I have a job, and I have a house, and all these things that I was rationalizing what was really going on, and that I had an issue. So yeah, I think that my alcoholic tendencies started very young, probably still when I was at home with my parents drinking at a young age. And then, as we know, alcoholism is such a slow, progressive disease. Sometimes it just got worse and worse. And what the breaking point for me was, well, I think it was like 3 years ago. I finally came to my parents and said, hey, I'm an alcoholic. I need help. And that was like what I thought then was my rock bottom. And oh, it's funny how you think you're at rock bottom and then it just keeps going. But so I let them know that, and they were 100% behind me. They wanted to help, and so we looked at rehabs, and they said, okay, let's get you into this rehab, let's do this. And I just wasn't ready at the time. It was scary for me. In my mind, I was like, I can't leave my job, I can't leave my dogs and my boyfriend and my house to go to rehab. Like, what the heck? And I think, there's a stigma behind stuff like that. And I was very much a person that, believed in that stigma of, oh my God, what am I going to do? So it took 3 to 4 years of major struggling. I mean, trying to stop and not being able to do it by myself, and just the anxiety and the pain and the hurt and the shame, as many alcoholics feel. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare once I had realized I was an alcoholic but wasn't getting the help that I needed. It was years of, I felt like, just wasted energy. I was always tired, and I needed this, alcohol, this substance, to get me through to the next day, and it was just the worst feeling. And so in January of this past year, the beginning of the year, I'm going to be honest, I went on a bender, a crazy, probably week long, maybe even longer than that, where I was drinking the moment I woke up, and I was not stopping until I passed out. And my boyfriend came home one of those days, and it was probably 2 p.m. and I was so passed out cold, he could not wake me up, and it really scared him. And so, eventually I did wake up. I think it was a couple hours. And meanwhile, he's sitting there next to me, making sure I'm still breathing and checking my pulse. And I can only imagine what that was like for him, just being terrified. And I finally got up and I went to the bathroom. I threw up all over the bathroom floor, and then I passed back out. I don't remember any of this. It was awful. And so, that next morning he woke up and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm so worried about you. I'm scared that you're going to die, or I'm going to come home to you dead. And I can't live like this anymore. And so that, I think, was, my rock bottom at that time of wow, I'm gonna die if I don't get help. And so I said, okay, call my dad. And he called my dad, and he came and got me at my house and took me home and got me into a rehab. I think it was 2 or 3 days later. And I went to an amazing rehab. I will tell you now, that was probably the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. It was amazing. Was it uncomfortable? Yes. Was it scary? Totally. Was it the best thing I've ever done for myself? Absolutely. And I spent 30 days there, got out in early February, and I have been sober since. So I just passed my 6 month sober anniversary, and I just turned 30, and I just celebrated the 4th of July. And I was worried about it. I mean, that's a lot of stuff coming at you at once. And I was able to stay sober by using my tools. And I'm just so grateful and thankful and happy that I was able to do that and that I am sober now, because my life is, I can tell you now, a million times better than what it was struggling. So that is kind of a little bit about my story and how I'm here.
Yeah, I think there's so much like booze is okay. Like you grew up in a family where it was okay to drink. Like, and I have a teenager, and on the one hand, like when I was drinking, that was kind of my thought on it, was like, okay, we're not going to make a big deal about booze. Then, like we're going to make her feel like it's okay. That way we don't want her to like get out and go lose control in college or be at a high school party and not know how to handle herself. Like that was our stance on it for a long time. But then when I stopped drinking, I was like, this is so much better. Like, I don't want her to think that she has to drink or that it's only socially acceptable to be at a high school party with a beer in your hand. And like, I feel like that's what we have. We've made alcohol okay. And then we get into college, and like you were there so early and you felt like it was something you had to do to fit in.
Totally.
And I hate that for our kids. Like I hate that. And I live in Dallas, like I told you, and I feel like mommy wine culture is so huge here. Like
Oh, yeah.
and I feel like the one that's out of place because I don't have a Yeti full of white wine at 2:00 in the afternoon. Like,
Totally.
yeah. And I hate that is, I love that your parents were open with you. And I love that your parents were accepting. And I think that like, if there's a fine balance between having that open, honest relationship with your kids and making it seem like something is the way that it's supposed to be. Like there's that balance. Growing up in my family, booze was everywhere. Like we grew up in a small town, we lived in a small town. And so every weekend was a family barbecue or someone's birthday. And my mom is one of 10 and I have 90 something first cousins.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
There was always a reason to drink. It was either someone's birthday or a baby shower or a wedding or a quinceanera or there was always a reason to drink. And so I, until recently, like as an adult, did not know that it was not normal to wake up at 8:00 in the morning and everyone start drinking, and you don't stop drinking until either a fight breaks out or everyone passes out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I totally
that
get
wasn't
that.
normal. Yeah. I thought that was normal. I thought everybody's families did that. It's
yeah.
I try to change the narrative around booze with my daughter and her high school friends. And because I feel like we're doing these kids a disservice of teaching them that this is the only way they can have fun.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. And I've thought about that a lot too. I'm not sure if I'll have kids. I want them, but I have a lot of things in my life that I still want to do before having kids. So we'll see. But I've had this cognitive dissonance in my own brain of so my family, I mean, I had a great childhood. I grew up and my parents were cool and they looked out for me and I was able to do these things. And I'm like, well, this happened to me. So do I be like the, strong parent where I'm like, you can't do anything, or the overbearing parent where they aren't allowed to drink? And then what if they go crazy because I don't allow it? And so I think that I have come, and I'm sure I'll think of more things when that time comes, but in my own mind I think that just being open and honest about everything, of you can make these decisions yourself. When you leave this house, I don't have control over every little thing you do, but this is what can happen if you are not careful. And sometimes you can be 100% careful. And alcoholism is just, it doesn't discriminate against anybody, any age, any economic status, nothing. It can ruin lives. And as long as I'm open and honest with my children about what I went through, my story, and I think that they should be able to make those decisions on their own and be careful. And I hope to God, like, it stresses me out because I don't even have kids, and I'm like, I don't want them to go through what I went through. So I think it's just being open and honest, having that open dialogue with them all the time about it, and allowing them to then choose on their own, and just hope that they make the right choices. You can't do it for them. And everyone knows that you can't force an alcoholic to get help. They have to want help themselves. And it's kind of the same thing with another human being. You can't force them to be a certain way. So it scares me.
Yeah. I was a drug addict in high school, and I've always, and my degree is in addiction studies. And so I was a single mom to my daughter the entire time I was in college. And so I went back to college when I found out I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant in June, and I started college in August. And so, her entire life, she has grown up knowing about addiction and knowing that I was an addict. And actually, she listens to my podcast and she helps run my social media. But I've always been open and honest with her about the fact that addiction is hereditary, and I was an addict, and this is what happens to the teenage brain when you start doing drugs and alcohol at a young age. And so I've always just been super open and honest with her about that. And now that I don't drink, but my husband does, she sees both sides of the coin. And I wish that was something that was more readily available to teenagers. And I wish that there were better emotional tools out there for kids to learn how to cope with their emotions without drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have friends that are like starting programs and stuff like that. And I'm like, yes, please do it. Like, kids need to know that they can have fun without drugs and alcohol, and they need to know how to manage their emotions without drugs and alcohol. Because like you were 17 and totally immersed in this adult life in college, and probably didn't have the tools to have fun without alcohol, and or like how to manage these adult emotions as a still very young adult / teenager in an adult world.
Yeah, 100%.
So, okay, so I want to talk about your birthday and 4th of July. Like, huge, happy birthday.
Thank you.
So I see this a lot on Facebook groups, which we met through a Facebook group, but I see this a lot of people like, how do you have fun? How do you celebrate birthdays? How do you do these things sober? And I know I've learned that I have way more fun sober than drunk, but for people who are very new in recovery and these big milestones come up, I see it all over social media. They don't know how to handle it. So what tools did you use to stay sober during this huge birthday? Because 30 is huge. And I know I did my 30th big, and I got wasted and like don't remember much of anything. And I did this year sober. This year I turned 37 and I loved it and had a blast.
Oh, totally.
yeah, I think this is my second birthday that I've celebrated sober, but this one was by far the best. But so what did you do to stay sober these past couple of weeks?
So gosh, I have actually not been dreading, that weekend, the 4th of July, 30th birthday weekend, but very nervous about it. Because in the past, kind of like you were saying, I would spend the entire week or two before drinking and partying, and a lot of my friends take off that whole week, and we live right by a lake, and it's just basically revolved around drinking. And it's been that way since I was 17, 18. So I mean, a very long time of that type of celebration, I guess. And so I knew this was coming up, and whenever I have a stressful situation coming up or know that it might be a difficult time, I literally have to do inventory of my toolbox. What do I have that I can grab when I'm feeling very weak, or if I get upset, or if I'm craving, honestly. And so it's nice to just go over those in your head before anything even happens, because you'll have them right there ready. So that's kind of what I did. And one of my tools is my support system. Not everybody has a great support system, but that is one of my major tools. My boyfriend, he does still drink, but he is very in tune to how I'm feeling and knows when to, okay, let's go home, say, well, okay, let's go home. That's enough, So I let him know, hey, look, this is going to be a real big weekend for me. It's my 30th. It's the 4th of July. I'm going to need your help. And he was on board with it. So that's kind of one of the things that I did. And then another really great tool that I have used are positive affirmations. And I had originally heard about positive affirmations or using affirmations actually before I got sober in the job that I worked with. So I work in an industry that they talk about positive affirmations a lot. And I'm not going to lie, when I first heard this or heard someone say, just do your positive affirmations, I was like, what the heck? Oh my gosh. So you're going to look in the mirror and pump yourself up. And I just thought it was the funniest, like cheesy thing. And, going through rehab and also them talking about it, it has honestly become one of my biggest tools for a lot of reasons. So, we all have those bad days, or you wake up and you're just on the wrong side of the bed, or you feel anxious, or you're craving. And one of the quickest, easiest things that you can do is positive affirmations. You don't have to call anybody at that moment. You can, if you can't call anybody, if you're in the position where it's 3 a.m. or no one's picking up or whatever, this is something that you can do for yourself to help you get through it. And so you can start with the most simple affirmation, like, I have a roof over my head. And it's very simple, but it's true. And so start with very simple things like that. I have a roof over my head. I have, a sister that loves me, or a brother that loves me, or a boyfriend that loves me, whatever you have. I have a dog that loves me even. And just come up with those simple ones and build from there. And it helps if you say them out loud, which sounds funny, and I have a funny story about that. I was doing my positive affirmations one morning on my front porch, and our neighbors are very close by. And I had my eyes closed, but I was saying my affirmations out loud, and I was ready to go, and I'm like pumping myself up. And I turn and look over, and my neighbor's standing on the front porch, or on the back porch, with his coffee in his hand, kind of looking at me. So it was funny, but you know what? I didn't care, because I was making myself feel good with those positive affirmations. So start simple, start small. And if you're like me, I have a very, God, I have to write everything down. I make lists on everything. And so just start a list of everything that you are thankful for. That could be on your positive affirmations list. So I have everything from, I am intelligent, I am smart, I have a job, I have people that love me, things like that. And then I like to take it kind of a level further. So like, yeah, I can say I have a job, cool. But as everyone knows, sometimes jobs can be the one that's causing your stress or causing your anxiety, whatever it is. So take it one further and say, I have a job that allows me to have my weekends off. So even though your job may be causing the anxiety, that positive affirmation is telling you, but hey, look at this, I get my weekends off. Or I have a job that allows me to, be in something that I love, things like that. So the positive affirmation, and then another layer that kind of speaks to that first part of it. And it's when you start going, you can have a bad morning and you don't know what you want to say. And so just get those first few out, get those first three, come up with three good ones that you can say even when you're upset. And you'll be surprised how easily they come out after that. You think of, wow, I didn't even think that I was, that this was something great about my life that I didn't know, they just flow, and it's awesome. And I like doing those in the morning. I take my showers in the morning. And so that shower time, 10 minutes, whatever it is, that's what I'm focused on, is what are my positive affirmations today? How am I feeling today? How can I start this day off on a positive note, even if I'm feeling sick or depressed or anxious or triggered, whatever it is, how can I turn that around? And so I will sit there in my shower and say these positive affirmations out loud. And it might sound silly, but I promise I feel better almost every single time when I get out of that shower. I'm ready to start on a good note, because you're thinking about the positive things. Your mind is focusing on the positive, even when you don't want to be. You're kind of tricking your mind into that mentality of, look at all the, maybe this is going wrong or this is going wrong, but wow, look at all of these things that are going right. And look at all these great things that I am blessed for and thankful for. And so it's a simple trick. It's easy. All it takes is yourself and your voice and saying it out loud, and your willpower, honestly, and just your commitment to doing it. And it's crazy what that can do to your thought process. And you're almost speaking it into existence as well. It's great. You're speaking everything you're positive about, and it really does make a great difference. It does have a positive impact on my morning every morning.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I hit the wrong button and it brought up my news, my news feed instead of unmuting my mic. No, yeah. What you said about speaking it into existence, I think people get kind of turned off. They're like, oh, that's too woo-woo for me. But it's true. Yeah. There's science behind it. Your brain, and I talked about this in the last episode, but whatever, you speak, your brain will start to try to make it a reality, and it'll start making you see things or do things, or it'll point things out to you. And so when you're focused on the negative, everything is going to go wrong because your brain is pointing out all the negative things. But if you start to refocus your mind on the positive, it starts to point out the positive things, and you will almost automatically get less triggered because you're not focused on the negative, you're focused on the positive. And what triggers you is the negativity, the stress, the emotion, the bad emotion, or not bad, but the sad, overwhelmed, angry, uncomfortable emotions. Thank you. That's the perfect word. But that's usually what triggers us. I know sometimes I get triggered with because with family, because that's normal. There's a wedding. Okay, that means we're going to drink. It's not as bad now, but at the beginning it was oh, family's coming to visit. That means pull out the wine and the cigarettes and all the things. And and so but it's just being aware of what is going on in your brain and using those affirmations to pivot. And so I used I was okay, I can have fun without drinking. I can enjoy family time without drinking. And that's kind of what I repeated to myself is okay. And it rewired. Now, whenever my family comes to visit, it's just family coming to visit. It's not, booze, it's not that trigger thought of break out the booze. I still break out the booze because they like it, but but it's not for me. But I love that. It is positive affirmations. And it can feel really weird at first, like talking out
Yeah.
loud to yourself.
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
client, I brought it up and he was like, no, I'm not talking to myself. And I'm like, just go stand in the closet where nobody can see you. It'll be
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, it really is. And anyone listening to this, I challenge you to do it one day, or maybe do it every morning for 1 week. And if you don't feel good and it's not a good tool for you, you don't have to use it. You can throw it out and not think about it. But you just have to try. And that's one of the things that, if you're struggling with sobriety or if you're sober, and this is how I was, I'm not sure if it's how everyone else is, but just getting yourself to do the simple things that you think or know will make you feel better. So when I was in active addiction, I mean, taking a shower, that was like the biggest, it was so hard for me to get up. I was so depressed and so just messed up in my mind that even taking a shower felt like a huge task. And I knew as soon as I get up and I take my shower and I wash my face and I dry off and I'm cozy and I'm comfy, I'm going to feel better. I knew that in my brain, but it was just, there was a disconnect of like, it just took so much to do those little things. And it's kind of like this, it's affirmations. They're simple, they're easy. It doesn't take much of your time. You can do it in the morning when you're showering or whatever. You just got to do it and it'll make you feel better. It's one of those things that seems so difficult or like you might not want to do it, but if you just do it, see how it makes you feel. And if it's something that can make you feel even a little bit better, why not? Especially if you're struggling. If you're struggling, just try it out.
Yeah, for sure. I always tell my clients, like, you need to have a plan every morning, have a plan for the day, because if not, you're going to want to stay in bed and not shower, not do anything. And in the very
Yep.
early stages of recovery, like, that's important, is to like make an agenda for your day of like, I'm going to get up, I'm going to brush my teeth, I'm going to take a shower, and put your positive affirmations in there of like, okay, I'm going to take a shower. I'll speak positively to myself while I'm in the shower. And then having a plan, and it's so easy to just pop them into your day.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it really is. And it does, it changes my mood. And even now I've been doing this even though I've, been sober for 6 months, I've been doing positive affirmations for a while, just because the industry I'm in, like I said, they talk, when we go to conferences, that's one of the things they focus on and talk about. And even now, especially when I'm in a really bad mood or I feel like just awful, even now I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, that's so dumb. I have those thoughts and, I make myself do it. And I guarantee you, when I get out of that shower, even if I'm still upset, it's okay to still be upset. But if it improves a little bit, then that's all I'm looking for. That's all I need in that moment, is to just help me out a little bit.
Right. Yeah. It's that little boost.
Totally.
Positivity. Okay. So I know you kind of touched on this, but is there any other advice that you would have for people in early recovery?
Get your toolbox ready, y'all. Like I had mentioned, list out literally who you can call, who you can go to when you're feeling weak or you need help. Get those people lined up and get them on board with what you're doing. One of the reasons it took me so long to actually take steps for myself and my sobriety was because I wasn't being honest with people. You have to be honest with people so that they understand, maybe not understand, but know what you're going through. And it took forever because I lied for so long. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. And on the inside, I was not fine. So be honest with those people and it's scary being honest, because then it's like, oh, well, they're going to hold me accountable. Accountability is scary. You don't, if you're not ready, it's a scary thing. But it's the best thing you can do, because you're going to have that extra help when you're feeling weak. Instead of them calling you up and, hey, let's go get a drink, they're going to know they can't say that anymore. And they're going to be there for you in a way that you don't have them if you haven't been honest with them. So yeah, get your people, be honest, and write these down literally in a notebook of where you can reach out. Another thing that helps me is having my material that I had available when I was in treatment. I still have all of my books. my Smart Recovery book, my AA book, my Recovery Dharma book. I have all of this at my fingertips for when I'm feeling real bad or having a bad day or just need to pick me up. I'll go read a chapter out of the book and remind myself why, you know, why I made this decision, because it's the best decision for me. And then, choose a program if you can. I was never really big into programs, but they have a lot out there. It's not just AA if that's not your thing. If AA speaks to a higher power, so, and that doesn't have to mean God, it can mean anything for you. But if that is not your cup of tea, it's fine. There's Recovery Dharma, which is very I think it's Buddhist based. I'm not 100% sure, but it's very meditative, so they do a lot of meditations and things like that. Or if neither of those are yours, do Smart Recovery. It literally takes information, science, how your brain works, and points out why alcoholics exist, how it happens, how to stop it, what it does to your brain. And that was awesome. I read that. I got my Smart Recovery material and I read the whole pamphlet. And gosh, it was like less than a week when I was there, because it's very interesting. So if your mind is more science-based, do that. But all of that being said, there are programs out there that you can find that will help you in the way that you want to be helped. So yeah, really, get your people together, get your list together of how you're gonna tackle this. Be honest with people, try and join a program that has meetings. Yeah, say your affirmations.
Yeah, my favorite one is and all kinds of places call it different things, but it's basically like play the tape out, where like
Yes.
your worst drunk, like that was passing out and puking all over the bathroom floor and putting your boyfriend
Yeah.
through that trauma. But like that's one of the tools that I like to give to my clients is like, what was your worst drunk? Write it out, or at least like have it very well in your brain, so that when you're really triggered and you're really tempted, you can play that tape out and remind yourself of the worst place that alcohol has taken you. And yeah, and just remind yourself that you don't want to be there.
Oh yeah. And it's so easy to say, I can just have 2 drinks. Okay, so then
Mm.
don't stop there. In your mind, play it out. So what happens when you have 2 drinks? Well, I'm going to have 3 more or 4 more or 5 more. And then what it's going to happen, because it doesn't stop at, I can just have 1 drink or I can just have 2 drinks. It never stops there. But that's where our mind stops until you actually do it, until you're having that 1 drink, and then it goes. So you got to play that tape out from the beginning of, what is this going to look like if I do have 1 drink? How am I going to act? What's going to happen tomorrow? Yeah, so playing that tape out really does, that works as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so last question. What are your hopes, dreams that you have that you're looking forward to? Because I think you're at a place where you're finally like, you're not stuck in the, okay, my only thought is not drinking. It really sounds like you're like starting to live life again. And so what do you like? What are your plans, hopes, dreams? What are you going to do?
Gosh, that is such a loaded question. Because for a long time, you just have, when you're in active addiction, you don't have time to think about the future. And it's literally just, how am I going to survive this day? How am I going to get through this day? And so, yeah, the past 6 months have been so amazing. I feel like I have done more in the past 6 months than I did in 10 years of active addiction, which is such a great thing. I mean, my soul feels free, and that sounds cheesy, but it's true. I feel like the sky is the limit. And so we sold the house that we were in a couple months after I got out of treatment, and we are building a house right now that we will be moving into in a few months, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
I got a new job because one of my triggers, I realized, was working from home. When I work from home, I get lonely, I get upset, and no, I don't have any accountability. That's a huge thing with me, is accountability. If no one's, relying on me to be at an office at 8 or 9 a.m., it's that affects me deeply. And so I have this new job that I love, and I'm hoping to get my license in the field that I am in the next 6 months, and then possibly go out on my own. So these are all, and it's crazy because it's so hard to think of everything that is in front of you in your life. Like even 6 months sober, it's so hard to be like, I can do this and I can do this and this and this, just because for so long you're caught in that loop of depression and anxiety and addiction. It really is awful. And so I need to make a goal board or a vision board. I need to make one of those and put pictures of exactly what I'm going to be doing in the next 5, 10, or even year from now. But those are my main things. We're moving into our new house. I want to start traveling again. I love traveling, but when I was in active addiction, it's the thought of potentially not being able to get the poison that I needed to keep me going was scary. What happens if we're stuck in an airport and I can't get something to drink and I go into withdrawals? It was a reality for me of what am I going to do if this happens? And so I haven't traveled in a long time. I want to go to Asia, and I would love to visit Europe. I've never been to Europe. And those are just now things within probably the past month that I've been thinking of, like, wow, I can do this. Oh my gosh. It still surprises me every day. I'm still in, gosh, like la la land. Like, this is my life now. I am sober. I can do this. And so I have so much that I want to do. And now that I am sober and in a place mentally, physically, emotionally, I'm going to just start living my life and get everything that I want to get done. All my dreams, it feels like they're at my fingertips. And that's a really amazing feeling.
I love that. Like, that makes my heart happy. I'm actually I'm in the process of like building this course, and this is basically what it is taking people from that place of like all you're thinking about is either drinking or staying sober. Like that's all you can think about, and taking them from there to where you are now of like just creating this life that you love because you have all this crazy freedom now. And I still like catch myself where it's like somebody will ask me like, do y'all want to go do XYZ? And I'm like, oh, well, we're going to have to Uber, or it's going to be expensive because we've got to take a cab. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, I can drive. I don't drink. I'll drive wherever I want, whenever I want, and I can do whatever I want. Like, there's no more in being tied down to the need to be drunk or the need to find provisions because I'm drunk. Like it's amazing.
It is. It's amazing. It's almost like alcohol is like an abusive partner. You know what I mean? Like it tells you where you can go, when you can go, what you can do, if you're in trouble, if you're going to end up on the ground that night, blacked out. Like, you know what? It is an abusive partner. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. No, I love that. Okay. So that is all I have. Do you have any last thoughts? Anything else you want to say to the people in recovery?
Yeah, just keep fighting, man. Keep doing it. Keep moving forward. Some days it feels like it's not possible or that you can't do it, but just know it is. If it's possible for me, it can be possible for you. And just say your positive affirmations, have your toolkit ready. Just keep fighting because it's so, so much worth it on this side of sobriety. It is worth every tear that you have right now or every anxiety you have. It is so worth it being free of all of that, and just keep going, man.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time and for being here, and congratulations on 6 months. Yay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, talk to you later.
Bye.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you gained some insight and some knowledge from Miss Racine. She had a lot to share and a lot to give us. I am looking forward to getting to know you more. If you have any questions or you are ready to create your own personal toolbox, you can hop on over to the Rebel VIP membership and join today. We will be creating a personalized toolbox just for you while we dig in deeper to this podcast episode. I am going to be running in the Shatterproof Race Against Addiction this fall. And so I am accepting donations for that. I am about $100 shy of my goal, my fundraising goals. So I will link that below in the show notes. If you are interested in donating to this podcast to keep us going, you can do that below as well. It is under the show notes. It'll be linked and it says, "Buy Teresa a coffee." That is always appreciated, and I will give you a shout out on the podcast for those donations. If you are interested in one-on-one coaching to start cultivating an abundantly fulfilling life in recovery, you can always reach out to me, and I will link that below as well. As always, be well, be kind, and may you find some joy this week. Bye-bye.